Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Yin Yang yoga class, which is first half Vinyasa flow and second half Yin and restorative. So make sure that you have a couple of yoga blocks or pillows, a strap as well. Blanket may be useful. And let's start in child's pose. So setting your knees on the floor, together or apart, bring the inner edges of your feet to touch. As you rest your forehead down, you can place something underneath your head like a block or your forearms, or just set it all the way down to the ground if that's comfortable. And then rest your arms wherever you like. Just allow a moment here to arrive in your practice. So here in LA, we're seeing things open up a lot more after over a year with lots of restrictions and physical distancing and with this pandemic. And I remember at the start of the pandemic, I read this article and shared it in yoga about gaslighting when things started to open up again, and to be aware of this rush to a so-called norm. In yoga, we practice honoring transitions quite a bit in our vinyasa flow, breath-led movement, using the breath to consciously move into one pose and then into another, but also being mindful of our habits, not only of physical movement, but our tendencies. Whether we like to rush through change and get to the so-called destination we're aiming for, or we take our time. And so in the second limb of yoga, there's actually a practice of self-study, svadhyaya, in which we really pay attention to how we react or respond to change, to life in general, right? So that we can make conscious choices. So it's this cultivation of self-awareness. So that's the focus for today's practice, is to really be mindful of transition. Here in our physical poses, now in how you're breathing from inhale to exhale, but even in the larger scope, how are we transitioning to the constant ebb and flow that life is, remembering that life is impermanent. Things are constantly changing, and mindfulness allows us to witness that change with some sense of inner grounding. So with that, in child's pose, just taking a moment here to perhaps set an intention for your practice today. As we move a bit in the beginning, quite a bit in flow, which is heating, you might consider it as a purification, a shedding or a releasing of stuff that is no longer of use, old habits. And as we enter the yin after that, the cooling, the stillness, what are you inviting in the new space that you've created? Allowing the breath to take up a little more space in your body as you slow it down. Any sound that may want to release through the mouth. This time, inhaling very slowly. Arrive at the top and pause and just take a so-called bird's eye view there. Just feel into that feeling of fullness. And then when you feel ready, slowly empty your breath and do the same at the canyon at the bottom, the emptiness, and just look around, sort of say, feel out that feeling of emptiness. And then invite you to do that once more at your pace, inhaling to the top, holding, observing, exhaling to the bottom, holding, and observing. And now beginning to cultivate balance in your breath, slow pace in the breath, so that as you are being conscious with how you're directing your energy to flow through your breathing, you bring that same consciousness into your movements, into your transitions between poses. And let's use Ujjayi Pranayama here. So as you softly narrow the back of your throat, if you can, just breathe in and out to your nose, sustaining your breath equally in and out, and listening to a very gentle whispering sound. Extending your arms forward. Let the next inhale take you forward onto hands and knees as you parallel your shins, lifting the chest into cow pose. Shoulders dropping back, and as you exhale, sinking your hips again to your feet, back in child's pose, hollowing the belly there. Let's take this long range of cat-cow a few more times, inhaling, gliding forward to hands and knees, then coiling your chest up. Exhaling, pulling in the navel, dropping the sitting bones to your feet, child's pose. And take about 3 more rounds of breath at your own pace. Really taking your time to feel the transition between each posture, cow pose and child's pose. And without rushing, the next time you do arrive back in child's pose, let's take the pelvis into lateral circles, shifting the hips to the left on an inhale, and then coming forward again to hands and knees. Shifting the hips to the right on an exhale, and sinking back down to child's pose. Taking a few more lateral circles in this direction. And the next time your pelvis meets your feet in child's pose, let's shift the hips to the right on your next inhalation. Lateral circles in the opposite direction, exhaling to the left and back down to your feet. A few more times. Feel the side ribs here open up as you sweep your hips to the left, as you sweep your hips to the right. Also stretching into the muscles between your side ribs, your intercostal muscles. And the next time you land back in child's pose, tuck your toes behind you, lifting your hips into downward facing dog. And then over here, separating the feet wider than hips distance. We're gonna dance our downward dog for a moment. Swiveling your hips to the right, dropping your heels towards the right as you bend the right knee. Lengthening the left side body, maybe look under the left armpit. Then lifting your hips to swivel over to the left, dropping your heels to the left, bending the left knee. Looking under the right armpit. And then coming back through center, in which you can choose any kind of organic movement to free up your neck. Warm up the backs of your legs. A few more cycles of breath here. Shifting around, exploring your inner and outer space in Adho Mukha Svanasana. Coming back through center, bend your knees, lift your heels and hips higher, look past your hands, empty your breath. When it's held out, walk or float your feet to the top of your mat. In your forward fold, press into your shins or the ground. Inhale, lift your heart, gaze forward, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold in. Press to your feet, inhale, sweep your arms overhead, catching hold of your left wrist. Exhale, side bend to your right. Draw the belly in. Inhale, rise to center, catching hold of your right wrist. Exhale, side bend to your left. Breathe in to rise. Sweep your arms open. Exhale, hinge forward from your hips. Fingertips on your shins or the floor. Inhale, rise halfway. Then hands outside of your heels on blocks or the ground. Step the left knee back into Sun Salutation C. Press down to your right foot. Inhale, sweep your arms forward and up, coiling your chest open. Exhale, backstroke your hands down to the floor. Step into downward facing dog. From downward facing, inhale, glide forward into your version of plank. Legs straight or knees on the floor. As you exhale, shift forward, bend the elbows to hug your side ribs in Chaturanga. Come all the way down in this first one, pointing your toes on the earth. Inhale into a light cobra pose, opening your chest off the ground. Press into the earth, tuck your toes. Exhale, draw the belly in to lift your hips back to downward facing. Continuing one breath each movement, inhale, sweep your left leg up high. Exhale, bend your left knee, open at the hip. As you inhale here, tack your right hip back. And as you exhale, lightly step the left foot forward inside of your left hand. Lower your right knee. Press to your left foot. Inhale, sweep your arms forward and up. Coil your chest open. Exhale, backstroke your hands to the top of your mat, stepping the right foot forward and fold. Press your shins or the ground. Inhale, rise halfway. Exhale, fold again. Firm to your feet. Inhale, sweep your arms overhead, holding your right wrist this time. Exhale, side bend to your left. Draw the lower belly in. Inhale, rise to center. Catch the left wrist. Exhale, side bend to your right. Inhale, rise to center. Open your arms and exhale, forward folds. Side two, same sequence. Inhale, rise halfway. Hands to the ground or blocks outside the feet. Exhale, right knee steps back. Press down through left foot. Inhale, sweep your arms forward and up. Coil your chest open. Exhale, backstroke your hands to the ground. Step into downward facing dog. From there, inhale, shift forward, plank pose. Navel in, gaze forward. Exhale, glide forward. This time lower all the way or halfway, choosing cobra or upward dog as you inhale. Lifting your hips on an exhale to downward facing dog. Once there, inhale, raise your left leg up high. And exhale, step the left foot next to the right because that's the wrong side. I made a mistake. Inhale, raise your right leg up high. Exhale, bend your right knee. Turn the thigh open at the hip. Next, inhale, tack your left hip back. Exhale, lightly land the right foot forward just inside of your right hand, lowering your back knee. Press down to your right foot. Inhale, sweep your arms forward and up. Coil your chest open. As you exhale, backstroke your hands to land at the top of your mat and step left foot forward to fold. Inhale, press your legs to the floor, look forward. Exhale, fold in. Inhale, circle your arms to rise, this time hooking your thumbs like an eagle shadow puppet. And exhale, coil your chest up, spending just a few more breaths in the standing back bend. So observe your front ribs. Can you melt them in towards your back body, down towards your pubic bone? And let your tailbone anchor towards the ground between your heels. Pressing the shoulder blades down. Take another deep breath to widen your collarbones. Exhale, join your palms in prayer, tracing your midline, passing through your heart center, and arriving down by your sides. Let's bring the feet together to touch as we take a version of Sun Salutation B, continuing our one breath, one movement flow. With feet together, knees together. Inhale, sit into chair pose. Maybe graze the floor with your fingertips, arms reaching up. On an exhale, shift your weight forward and fold. Inhale, rise halfway up. This time, step into plank or float into Chaturanga, or take a cat-cow instead of a full vinyasa. Insert yours here. Let's meet in downward facing dog. From downward facing, inhale, sweep your right leg behind you. Exhale, bend your right knee towards your nose, round through plank, and set the foot inside of right hand. Stay on the ball of your left foot, high lunge. Press through both feet. Inhale, sweep your arms to rise, crescent pose. Spin the left heel down, align right heel to arch of left foot, and exhale, open your arms, warrior two. gazing past your right hand. Press through both feet and inhale, straighten your right leg, triangle pose, right hand reaching forward and down, left arm to the sky. Take a look at your right foot, plant your hands to frame it, stepping back to plank, insert your own vinyasa. Remember, you could opt to go straight to downward dog. In downward facing. Inhale, sweep your left leg back. Exhale, round forward through plank, lightly stepping into a high lunge. Press to your feet, inhale, sweep your arms to rise, crescent lunge. Spin the right heel down, align front heel to arch a back foot. Exhale, open your arms, warrior two. Straighten the left leg, sweep the left hand forward and down, inhale to triangle pose. Look at your left foot and exhale, plant your hands, stepping to plank, moving into your vinyasa or no vinyasa of choice. And so we arrive in stillness for 3 to 5 breaths in downward facing dog. Notice how you have been attending to your breath throughout these breath-led movements. You bring that sense of spaciousness by slowing your breath down and evenness by balancing inhale with exhale. Bring that same graceful fine-tunement into your postural transitions. So we're going to take the same sequence, another round. Bend your knees, look forward. On empty breath, walk or float to the front of your mat. With feet touching, inhale, rise forward halfway up. Exhale, fold in. With knees touching, inhale, sink your hips back, sitting in chair pose. Rooting down, exhale, rise up in mountain. Again, from the top, follow your pace of breath as much as you can. Inhale into chair. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half rise. Step or float back, insert your own vinyasa. Slow breath in. Breath out takes you to downward facing dog. Inhale, sweep your right leg back. Exhale, round through plank, step forward to a high lunge. Inhale, rise to crescent pose. Align right heel to arch of left foot. Exhale, warrior two. Straighten the right leg. Inhale, right hand forward and down to triangle pose. Exhale your hands to plank. Take it all the way through your vinyasa. Slow and steady breath. And when you arrive, downward dog, inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, round through plank into a high lunge. Inhale, rise up into crescent. To your right side, align heel to arch. Exhale, warrior two. Straighten your left leg, reach the left hand forward and down, triangle. Exhale to plank and all the way down. Vinyasa. Know that at any moment you need to cool off, take rest, child's pose, or any restful pose is available. 3 to 5 breaths as we hold still. Bending your knees, look ahead of your hands. On empty breath, walk or float to the front of your mat. Feet touching, inhale, lengthen forward. Exhale, fold in. Bend your knees to touch. Inhale, sink back into chair pose. And then exhale here. Join your hands together at your heart as you prepare for eagle. So turning out your right thigh at the hip, flex your right foot and cross your right thigh over the left. Now the foot can be flexed outside the calf or right toes tucked behind left calf. But make sure your two hips are as evenly as you can facing forward. And see if you can sit a little lower. Draw your navel in towards your spine. And then now the wings. So bend your elbows apart. Cross your left elbow over the right, either hugging yourself tightly, hooking your thumbs, or wrapping your forearms and palms. Letting your shoulder blades soften down your back. Steadying your gaze for a few more deep breaths. Eagle pose. Garudasana. So we're going to take flight in half moon pose. Beginning to place left hand on left hip, right hand on right hip. And we'll unravel the right leg straight behind you, parallel to the floor, tracing the midline of your mat. So flex the right foot. Place your left hand on the ground or a block, upper left corner from your left pinky toe, about 6 inches forward. Turn your chest completely to face your right wall, so your right shoulder naturally stacks over your left shoulder and your left wrist. Check in with your breath here as we're transitioning. Now, a few options. Keep your right hand on your right hip. Raise your right arm towards the sky if your balance feels pretty steady. Or add Shavasana. Rebend your right knee towards your chest. Use your right hand to hold the top of your right foot or ankle and begin to kick your right leg towards half moon, that straight leg position, while pulling your foot towards your glute so that you're opening the inner right shoulder, front of your right thigh. Wherever you're choosing to be, being there with full presence, full breaths. Last couple of breaths here. Extending your right foot back, gently land it on the ground for warrior two. So left heel to the arch of right foot, arms wide open. And once 2 feet are on the ground in warrior two, steady your gaze just past your left fingertips. About 3 deep breaths. Flip your left palm to face the sky, sweep your left arm overhead, leaning towards the rear edge of your mat in peaceful warrior. Breathe in, then exhale, step right foot to meet left foot, come all the way up to the top of your mat, mountain pose. Feet touching, bend your knees to touch, join your hands together at your heart in chair pose. Now shifting your weight onto your right foot, turn out your left leg at the hip, flexing your left foot, cross your left thigh over the right. Now the foot can be flexed outside of your calf or maybe tucking the toes behind your calf. Feel your 2 hips evenly facing forward and see if you can sit a little lower. And then now the wings, bend your elbows apart, cross your right elbow over your left elbow, hugging yourself tightly, hooking your thumbs, or wrapping your forearms and palms. And then relaxing the shoulders. Feel a bit of a fire in the belly here, that ignited stability at your center. A few more breaths in eagle pose, Garudasana. Now you may want to visualize the transition before embarking on it physically. So the right hand is going to land on the floor on a block, upper right corner from right pinky toe. The left hand is on the left hip or the sky as you extend left leg straight back, parallel to the floor. So flex your left foot in this transition. Taking it very slowly, very mindfully, bringing that sense of presence in each movement of the transition into half moon pose. Drawing your right sitting bone back towards your left heel. Chest is wide open to face your left wall. So whether your left hand is on your left hip, up towards the sky, or you're choosing to take Chapasana, in which you catch hold of the top of your left ankle or foot, kicking left leg towards straight as you pull the foot in towards your glute to coil your chest open, Chapasana. Feel into this breath. Utilizing how you're directing your breath to create space, mental space. Last couple of breaths here. Now you might visualize transitioning into Warrior Two before you start to make a move. And then with your breath, presence. Taking your time to bend your right knee and softly land your left foot towards the rear of your mat to align right heel with arch of left foot, arms wide open, steadying your gaze just past your right hand for about 3 or so breaths. Virabhadrasana 2. And once here, flipping your right palm to face up, sweep it overhead, lean towards the rear wall, peaceful warrior. Take a deep inhale. Exhale, this time cartwheel your hands to plank pose. And from plank, pause on an inhale before exhaling through Chaturanga Dandasana and all the way to the floor. So we're going to take it through one round of bound locust pose, heart opening back bend, with an optional transition into bow in which you can catch hold of your outer feet, staying lifted. So just make sure your knees are as close together as possible to start, so that when you are in either posture, you do not splay your knees apart wider than your hips distance, so that you're protecting your lower back. Rest your forehead on the earth. Reach your hands behind your lower back to clasp, or hold a strap between your hands. Starting in bound locust or Shalabhasana, press your heels back as you point your toes and begin to lift your legs straight, coiling your chest off the floor. Lightly lift your head. Steady your breath. Use the knuckles of your hands reaching towards your heels to broaden your collarbones while you send the shoulder blades down your back. Legs strong here, parallel the feet. Now either stay here for the rest of your counting, maybe 5 breaths or so before resting, or transition to bow by bending both knees. Use your hands to catch your outer feet, kick both legs towards straight as you pull the feet towards your glutes, further coiling your chest open through the strength of your legs. Dhanurasana. So counting on your own, a few more cycles of breath. Allow full expansion of your lungs in this posture as it encourages. When you decide that you're finished, you might like to make a pillow out of your forearms for your head to rest on, and just windshield wiper your shins together left and right a few times, or pigeon toe your feet on the ground to rest. While here, breathe into your belly, giving it a massage against the floor. Take a longer exhale to your mouth, maybe even sigh it out. Twice more into the belly. Longer exhale to your mouth, cooling off. And now we move into our yin portion. Resting your right ear onto the floor, slide your right arm straight open to the right with a palm face down. Place your left hand on the ground just beside your left shoulder and begin to press the floor away with it, slowly lifting your left hip bone away from the floor so you're rolling onto your right hip slowly. Slide your right shoulder blade further down your back, opening up space along the right side of your neck. And just feel into how much you need to lean back. Do you need to step the left foot behind you to feel a bit more here, opening the front of your right shoulder, or not? You might experiment with how it feels to wrap the left arm behind you, or to also bend the right knee if the left knee is bent, stepping both feet on the floor. So as we cool off in these more deeply opening yin postures, we stay a little bit longer. So let's take about 7 more slow breaths on this side. Feeling the full expansion of the 4 walls of your rib cage. So even within a posture, especially one that's held for a little longer like this, you might notice an unfolding, various sensations, or an unfolding of thoughts. Notice the transitions within the stillness too. Now, on your next exhalation, gradually unwind back to your stomach, lying face down. Notice how you are transitioning here, your pace, the energy of it. Not judging it good or bad, just simply noticing what are your habits here that are exposed in your physical movements. When you come back to center, let's take 3 deep breaths, just being still and observing. So giving ourselves a pause to just reflect upon the effects of our actions. And then very slowly, when you're ready, turn your left ear to rest on the ground. Slide your left arm straight out to the left side, palm face down. Place your right hand on the floor beside your right shoulder. And as you begin to press the floor away with it, start to roll over onto your left side. Send your left shoulder blade further down your back, opening up more space along the left side of your neck. And notice how this posture on this side may need to be a little different in intensity. Really tuning into the subtle nuances of how your body is guiding you, just the right amount of weight to place on this side. Maybe you step the right foot back if you haven't yet, or maybe you don't. Maybe you wrap the right arm behind, or not. And then drinking fully another 7 rounds. Just taking your time on your next exhalation. Start to unwind back to center, back to lying face down. And just allowing for a few breaths there of reflective pause. Crawl your fingertips alongside your shoulders so that you can gently press up onto hands and knees. Preparing for a hip opening posture, I'll thread the needle. Excuse me, could be thread the needle, but I meant single pigeon. So if you prefer to take the lying down version, where you're on your back, crossing right ankle over left thigh like a figure 4, that's thread the needle. You can set up in that one. Otherwise, from hands to knees, cross your right shin in front of your pelvis. Slide your left leg straight behind you and tuck the toes just to start. And plant your hands alongside your hips. As you lift your hips, scissor your right hip back and bring your left hip forward so that as much as you can, your 2 hips are evenly facing forward. Then you'll notice if there is a space between your right glute and the ground, you can fill that space with any prop you may have, like a blanket. If your right shin is parallel to the front edge of your mat comfortably, make sure that you're flexing your right foot in this posture to stabilize your knee. And relax the left toes. You can stay upright. You can take your blocks and place them in front of you to lean your forearms on if you want to start leaning forward. Lean your forehead on your block or on the floor. Or you can come into a spinal twist, which is the other thread the needle for your upper back. Now, if you're taking the spinal twist, crawl your right fingertips forward and to the right. Flare your right bent elbow towards the sky. Thread your left arm underneath your right bent elbow, left palm face up, and lie the left side of your head onto the floor or onto a prop, maybe a stack of blocks. So making sure that your body is aligned safely, then stabilized in that alignment with any prop support it may need. And then once there, using your breath to calm your body, to be receptive, and just observing what may unfold. And as we rest here for another 2 minutes, deep breaths. You happen to be lying on your back and taking the supine version, the other thread the needle, make sure that your right ankle on top, that the right foot is flexed so that you're stabilizing your right knee, at the same side hip that you're opening. Head and shoulders are resting down. inner right thigh is rotating open. What are you noticing here? Perhaps a reaction, other ends of your body, clenching of the jaw, furrowing of the brow, or shortened breaths. Or maybe none of that. Just observing it all. We're down to 15 more seconds. Give yourself grace, taking your time before you switch to the second side. So if you're lying on your back, stay on your back. Make sure that you do the same posture for the second side. You are in the upright version, single pigeon. Just gently begin to lift your torso. Come back to your hands and knees, or if you prefer, downward facing dog. And give your right leg, that hip, some movement. You can rotate the leg at the hip, you can shake out the leg a bit, just encouraging blood flow into the hip socket. And if you're lying down, you can do something similar on your back, rotating your thighs at your hips. Let's take a lion's breath wherever you are. Inhale deeply, and a big releasing exhale with any sound. Open the mouth, eyes wide, tongue out. And then as you're ready to, set up for side two, the same pose, though the intensity may be different. So from hands and knees, if you're taking single pigeon, cross your left shin in front of your pelvis. Straighten your right leg behind you and tuck your right toes to set up. Place your hands alongside your hips, lifting your pelvis just for a moment so that you could scissor your left hip back and bring your right hip forward, trying to evenly face them forward. Notice if it would be helpful to place a prop under your left glute here. Then untuck your right toes. If your left shin is parallel to the front edge of your mat, make sure you're flexing your left foot the entire pose. And take your time. What's the depth that your body is asking for in the side of your hip opener? One side may be quite different, so honoring that with compassion. Whether you're leaning on blocks, forehead on the floor, or entering the other side of thread the needle twist to the upper back. And if the latter, the left elbow splays up towards the sky, left fingertips arrive towards the upper left corner of your mat. And then the right arm threads underneath your left bent elbow with a palm face up so that the right side of your head rests on the ground or on a prop. Maybe a few props. So placing your body with intention, which is actually the literal meaning of vinyasa, place with intention. And then from there, in safe alignment, supporting your body with any props needed. And then supporting your body through breath, conscious breath. Witnessing the response, not only of your body here in this pose, not only of your breath, but your thoughts, your mind. 2 minutes. So those of you that are lying down in the supine version of this hip opener, make sure that your left foot is flexed, the foot that is on top. You're splaying open your inner left thigh. Relaxing your shoulders on the ground, relaxing your head down. My last minute here, rest your attention on the gentle sound of your breath, rushing past the back of your throat. Ujjayi pranayama. And we're down to the last 15 seconds. Taking your time, begin to move into your counter movements for this pose. If you're on your back, it might be circling the legs, lying down. Otherwise, back to hands and knees or to downward facing dog. Shaking out your left leg or circling it at the hip. And again, let's take a cleansing, cooling lion's breath. Inhale, fill everything up. Open your eyes and mouth wide, sticking out your tongue. You could even growl if you like. Let's make our way onto our backs. Have a block nearby. And then from here, take that block right in between your thighs so the block is the skinniest width, preparing for one round of bridge pose. So with your arms down by your sides, locate your feet. Have them just nearby where you could almost touch your heels with your fingertips, but not quite, just almost. Make sure that your feet are parallel, spread your toes, knees and feet same distance apart. Round the backs of your shoulders, tilt your chin back slightly, open your throat, and then when you're ready, holding bridge pose for your count of 5 to 10 breaths, lifting your hips. Walking your upper arms underneath your back ribs. Try to keep your arms straight, and if your hands touch, perhaps interlace your fingers too. So there's a bit of contraction of the hamstrings here. And that's like the feeling of dragging the heels towards your glutes. Don't actually drag them. See if you can feel that energy in the backs of your thighs. And then counterbalance that contraction with lengthening the fronts of your thighs forward. You just might feel a release in your hip flexors or your lower back. Open throat, open chest, open front body. Counting on your own when you finish 5 or so deep breaths, use an exhalation to very slowly lower upper back, middle back, and eventually tailbone. Once your pelvis is on the floor, put the block aside. Bend your right knee into your chest for a supine twist, straightening your left leg forward on the ground. Take a moment to slide your pelvis about 3 more inches closer to the right edge of your mat. And then slide your right arm wide open on the ground, making sure your right shoulder stays on the floor as you cross your right thigh over your body to your left. Turn your head to face your right hand. So as we are tending to the spine here, you might imagine your inhale beginning at the bottom of your spine and rising up between each vertebra, filling up space, and then arriving at your crown at the top of the breath. And then your exhale traveling down your spine, releasing all the way out at the base. Inhaling up your spine. Exhaling down your spine. Letting your breath be a nurturing attentiveness to your body. Let's finish 2 last breaths here on this side. And on your next exhale, slowly rolling onto your back, or you can straighten the right leg to the floor. Bring your hips to the midline of your mat. Bend your left knee into your chest. And then scoot your pelvis 3 more inches towards the left edge of your mat. Open your left arm wide on the ground, keeping the shoulder rooted. Turn your head towards it as you begin to cross your left thigh over your body to your right. Now perhaps imagining your next inhale rising from your tailbone, slowly up each vertebra to your crown. And the exhale descending from your crown down the center of your spine to your tailbone. So much power in intention. Pause with intention, to breathe with intention, to place your body with loving intention. And so let's slow down, 2 last breaths here. And when you're finished, gently rolling back to center, either draw your bent knees into your chest or splay your thighs apart into happy baby pose. And if you are in happy baby, try to keep your tailbone and shoulders on the floor, pressing them down to allow the full length of your spine. Now for just 1 last minute, choose a cooling way to lift your legs up higher than your heart in the most effortless manner. So could be lying down and lifting your legs like this, like an L shape. could be propping your lower back on top of a block or two blocks, a little more elevation of the pelvis to stimulate the blood flow. Some of you might be practicing shoulder stand. Just be mindful of your neck. Keep the head still, not turning side to side, and tilt your chin back gently away from your chest. Take maybe 5 breaths or less to gradually lower your legs to the floor, lower your pelvis if you're in shoulder stand. So here are a few options to set your body up in a restorative posture during Shavasana, if you choose. Otherwise, you could simply lie flat. Those of you looking for a bit more lift in the chest, release in the fronts of the shoulders, you could use 2 blocks like an equal sign towards the rear edge of your mat, medium height, and then keeping your pelvis on the floor, you can lie back so that the area right under your shoulder blades lands on the closer block, and then the back of your skull lands on the furthest block. And then right there, you're in a supported heart opening back bend, turning the palms up by your sides. Legs can be splayed forward or knees bent apart, soles of the feet together. For those of you that might have some tightness in the lower back you want to relieve, you could use the blocks or a pillow and place it underneath the backs of your knees like this, so that you're supporting a light bend in your knees as you splay your feet apart, wider than hips distance, just letting the feet flop open and then lowering onto your back. So if you're taking this position, once you're on your back, you might use your thumbs to just massage alongside left and right side of your spine, from the mid-spine to the tailbone, releasing the flesh of your glutes towards the backs of your knees, just to create a little more space in the sacrum before resting your palms face up by your sides. So bringing intention into how you set yourself up to rest for a few minutes of stillness. And once there, closing your eyes, releasing control of your breathing, allowing your body to be still, just observing even deeper inward. As you keep your eyes closed, just sweetly begin to rub your thumbs across your fingertips, feeling your body ease into movement. Anything that's ready to gently stretch, turn, explore the outer space. Or whether you draw your knees into your chest or simply turn over to one side or rock forward, find your way up gradually into a comfortable seat for our guided meditation. So as we've been talking about mindfulness during transitions, not only in yoga poses, but how we take that off the mats into our daily lives. That's what this meditation is about. Bringing mindfulness into life changes. So find a comfortable seat in which your back feels strong, your heart feels open. Whether you choose to close your eyes or steady a soft gaze on one spot ahead, take a mudra of your choice. One mudra for centering on the heart is the lotus mudra of the thumbs touching, the pinky fingers touching, and the other fingers splaying open like petals of a lotus, and placing the thumbs at the sternum. Or Gyan mudra, thumb and index finger to touch, hands resting on your lap, can help focus. And just taking what works for you, leaving what doesn't. Allow a moment to just feel the presence of your breath without having to do anything about it. Natural inhales, natural exhales. Know that during any of our guided meditations, should you feel overwhelmed or need to take care of yourself in some way, you can always choose to return to a safe anchor that you choose, whether it be the feeling of your breath or the feeling of your fingertips touching, whatever that may be for you. So now I invite you to call to mind a transition that you have made in your life in the past. Some change. Maybe it was changing jobs, moving to a new home, changing a relationship, or how you dealt with it. Maybe a relationship with yourself. Any kind of change that comes to mind for you. And so now as you shine your spotlight on that moment, or those moments of confronting change, witness yourself now in the present, seeing how you were in that moment of change. What was your perspective? What were your beliefs? How did you approach the new event? Know that this is a practice of just cultivating awareness and learning from our past, not judging ourselves at all. And so as you remember how you approached change in that past event, what seed of insight might you see now as a lesson learned, or an encouragement to keep doing something that you were already doing? Perhaps it's learning how to deal with yourself compassionately during change. Or maybe it's remembering to take things at the pace that are natural for you, not having to rush through change. So whatever is your personal insight. Now I ask you to call to mind any change that may be happening in your life now. If you're living in LA, there's quite a few transitions. Moving out of certain stages of COVID. Maybe it's a personal change. Maybe it's a relationship change. Big or small. Or perhaps it's a perceived change in the future. Let's feel the breath again. Remembering that you're here right now. Simply observing. So knowing now from your experiences and from the past, how might you bring mindfulness into your approach to this coming change? Without having to conjure up an answer, I invite you to just sit in silence, open space, having asked, how might I approach this coming change? Taking the lessons learned from the past. Whatever images, thoughts, or nothing. Things might come up after meditation or not. Just simply openness to observe for 2 minutes. And so one of the values of self-study, the yogic practice of svadhyaya, is cultivating trust in the deep wisdom that lies within. Allowing ourselves reflective pause, especially when we're moving through life changes. Just pause and listen inward, bringing mindfulness into our actions. close this practice, taking one chant of Om. Take a deep breath. Thank you for entrusting me. Share in your practice, your meditation. The light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste.